I adopted my niece when my sister abandoned her, but 5 years later she came back and demanded her daughter. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. My name is Clara, and I never imagined I would become a mother this way. I was 31 when my life changed forever. My sister, Renee, had always been unpredictable. She was the kind of person who ran after trouble without thinking of the cost. When she got involved with drugs and men who dragged her down, she didn't just ruin her own life. She nearly ruined her daughter's too. Her little girl, Maya, was only 2 years old when Renee walked out. She said she needed freedom and couldn't handle being tied down. She left Maya in my arms one night with a small bag of clothes and disappeared. I begged her to stay, but she never looked back. For weeks, I thought she might return. She didn't. So I stepped in. At first, it was overwhelming. I wasn't married, didn't have kids, and my job barely covered my bills. But Maya needed me. I went to court, went through all the paperwork, and made the adoption legal. Renee signed the papers without hesitation, probably too lost in her own world to care. From that moment on, Maya was mine. Those first years weren't easy. I had to learn how to stretch every dollar, how to comfort a child waking from nightmares, how to be both mother and father at once. Maya would sometimes ask, "Where's Mommy?" And I would hug her and say, "I'm here, sweetheart." Slowly, she stopped asking. She grew up calling me Mom. Over 5 years, we built a life. Nothing fancy, just a small rented house, weekend trips to the park, bedtime stories, pancakes on Saturday mornings. Maya became the center of my world. She was smart, funny, and full of life. I promised myself I'd give her stability, something Renee never could. Just when I thought the past was behind us, Renee returned. She showed up at my door one sunny afternoon, dressed neatly, her hair brushed like she had her life together. She smiled like nothing had happened. I froze. Maya was playing inside, and I felt a wave of fear rise in me. Renee didn't come to apologize. She didn't ask how her daughter had been. She came with one demand. "I want my daughter back." Her voice was sharp, like I had been keeping a secret from her. My heart sank. 5 years of silence, and suddenly she wanted to claim the little girl she had abandoned. I told her Maya was safe, happy, and loved, that I was her legal parent now. Renee's smile turned into a smirk. She leaned closer and whispered, "You can play Mom all you want, Clara, but she's mine." In that moment, I knew my quiet life was about to shatter. The knock on the door came without warning. When I opened it, there she was, Renee. Her hair was styled, her makeup carefully done, and her clothes neat. For a moment, I almost didn't recognize her. She carried herself differently, standing taller, her voice steady as she greeted me. "I'm clean now," she announced, as if that sentence could erase the years between us. Before I could respond, she stepped closer, her eyes darting past me, searching the living room where Maya's toys were scattered across the rug. Her smile hardened. "You stole her from me," she hissed, her voice dropping low, sharp enough to cut. I felt my chest tighten. I steadied myself and said, "You signed the papers in front of the judge. You know that. You gave up your rights." She laughed, short and bitter. "Papers don't mean anything. You think sitting in a courtroom makes you her mother? You're just pretending. She's mine, and she'll always be mine." Her words burned. I wanted to shout back, but Maya's small footsteps came from the hallway. I caught her just before she reached the doorway. "Go back to your room, honey," I said gently, forcing a calm tone I didn't feel. She looked up at me with wide eyes, then slipped away, sensing the tension. Renee folded her arms, watching me like she'd already won. "You can keep playing house all you want, but one day she'll know the truth. And when she does, she'll come running back to me. Because no matter how hard you try, you'll never be her real mother." The words hit deeper than I wanted to admit. My hands shook as I gripped the edge of the door. I told her to leave, but my voice cracked. She smirked, satisfied she'd rattled me. I shut the door in her face, my whole body trembling. Maya called out from her room, asking if everything was okay. I forced my voice steady again and told her yes, everything was fine. But inside, I wasn't fine at all. Renee's visit had left a shadow in my home. The polished look, the sudden appearance, the way she spoke like she had a right to rewrite history. It all unsettled me. I knew she hadn't come back to reconnect. She had come back to take. That night, after Maya fell asleep, I sat in the dark living room, the sound of Renee's words echoing in my head. "She'll always be mine." I had fought for Maya once. I was ready to do it again. But as much as I wanted to believe Renee's return was only a passing storm, something deep inside me whispered this was just the beginning. A thick envelope landed in my mailbox one morning, addressed in unfamiliar handwriting. I tore it open at the kitchen counter, and my stomach dropped as I unfolded the papers inside. A letter from a law office. The message was blunt. Renee was demanding custody. I sat frozen, staring at the bold lines that claimed she wanted her parental rights restored. My hands shook so badly the pages slipped from my fingers onto the floor. I called my attorney right away. His calm voice on the other end was steady, grounding me as I tried to explain through tears. "She can't undo the adoption," he said. "It's permanent. You are the legal parent. She has no standing." I wanted to believe him, but fear settled heavy in my chest. Paperwork might be on my side, yet I knew Renee. She had a way of twisting things, making lies sound like truths. If she couldn't win in court, what if she tried to turn Maya against me? That thought haunted me most. It didn't take long for signs of confusion to show. One evening, while I was folding laundry, Maya wandered into the room with a puzzled look. "Why does Auntie Renee call herself Mommy?" she asked softly, almost whispering the word. My heart sank. I set the clothes aside and knelt to her level. "Sweetheart, you don't have to worry about that," I told her gently. "I'm the one who takes care of you." But the doubt in her eyes cut me. She was too young to untangle the mess her aunt was weaving. Every encounter after that carried an undercurrent of strain. When Renee appeared, she no longer spoke with me directly. Her words were aimed at Maya, as if I weren't even standing there. She'd crouch down, plaster on a sweet smile, and say, "Mommy missed you so much." I could feel my jaw tighten each time, but correcting her in front of Maya felt like pulling the girl into a tug-of-war she didn't deserve. So I stayed quiet, but the silence ate at me. The distance between my sister and me grew sharper with every passing day. Conversations that once ended with clipped words now ended with glares. She carried herself like someone convinced she had already won. And even though I had the law on my side, I couldn't shake the dread pressing down on me whenever her name came up. I tucked Maya into bed one night and lingered in her room longer than usual, brushing hair back from her forehead, watching her small chest rise and fall in sleep. Renee's lawyer could send all the letters in the world, but this little girl, safe, loved, and cared for, was mine. Still, I knew my sister wouldn't stop. And that knowledge turned the air in the house thick with tension, as though we were waiting for a storm we couldn't avoid. It began at the school gates. I would arrive to pick up Maya, only to find Renee already there, crouched low with a wide smile, her hands full of shiny promises. Candy bars, stuffed animals, even glossy brochures of amusement parks. She dangled them in front of Maya like bait. "You and I will go on a big trip," she cooed one afternoon, her voice loud enough for other parents to hear. "Just you and Mommy, riding roller coasters, eating ice cream every day." I stepped in quickly, placing a hand on Maya's shoulder, guiding her away. Renee's eyes narrowed, but her lips curved into a saccharine grin, as though she were the doting mother simply cut off from her child. It didn't stop at the schoolyard. Soon, whispers trickled back to me from neighbors. Renee had been making her rounds, standing in driveways, chatting on porches, spinning her story. "Clara took my baby when I was at my lowest," she told them. "She's been keeping us apart ever since." I could feel the shift in how some people looked at me, the way conversations faltered when I walked up. It was like Renee was rewriting history in real time, painting herself as the victim and me as the thief. At home, the consequences hit hardest. Maya sat at the kitchen table one evening, staring at her plate, silent for longer than usual. When I asked if something was wrong, she glanced up with cautious eyes and asked, "Why can't I live with Mommy too?" The question cut through me like glass. I swallowed hard, keeping my voice steady, telling her she already had a home. But she pressed again, her small voice laced with longing. Renee's words had taken root, worming into her thoughts. In the days that followed, the distance grew. Maya, once quick to chatter about her day, began holding things back. She grew quieter, watching me with a mix of trust and doubt, as though weighing which version of mother she was supposed to believe. That's when it hit me. Renee wasn't fighting for love, and she wasn't fighting for redemption. She was fighting for power. Each gift, each whisper, each false smile was a move in a game where Maya was the prize. I started noticing the pattern. The bright promises always came when other parents or teachers were around. The whispered claims about me always reached ears that would carry them farther. Renee wasn't just trying to reclaim a daughter. She was trying to strip away my place, piece by piece, until nothing was left. That night, I sat alone at the dining table after Maya went to bed, the brochures from Renee still clutched in my hands. The pictures of beaches and rides stared back at me. But all I could see behind them was control, shiny, poisonous control wrapped in the illusion of love. And I knew this wasn't about family anymore. It was about domination. The facade began to crack the night I saw Renee outside a liquor store, her polished look slipping under the harsh glow of the streetlight. She wasn't alone. A group of men loitered nearby, the kind of company she used to keep, the same faces I thought she'd left behind. My stomach twisted. Whatever story she was selling about being clean, it wasn't the truth. Not long after, I learned about Derek. He showed up at Maya's school once, standing a few feet behind Renee, his presence heavy and unsettling. Tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes that never softened, he looked like the kind of man who demanded control of every room he entered. Teachers whispered later about the argument they overheard in the parking lot. Renee's voice sharp, Derek's tone low and threatening. I started putting pieces together. Derek came from a family that valued appearances, Sunday dinners, holiday gatherings, pictures on the mantle. Renee wasn't chasing Maya because of love or regret. She was chasing an opportunity to parade around with a child on her hip, to look like a reformed mother in Derek's world. That realization hit me like ice water. My niece wasn't a daughter to Renee. She was a prop. Something to prove she was respectable. Something to keep Derek interested. It made my skin crawl. I caught them together one afternoon at the park. Renee clutched Maya's hand too tightly while Derek leaned against a bench, watching. He barely acknowledged Maya, his eyes fixed on Renee like she was being tested. When I approached, Renee's smile was stiff, forced. She introduced Derek as if she were showing off a prize, but he hardly spoke. His only words were clipped, directed at Renee, and the way she flinched told me everything. Driving home that day, I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ached. The fear I had carried for weeks hardened into something else, determination. If Renee wanted to use Maya as a mask for her broken life, then I had no choice but to strip that mask away. I began digging quietly, asking careful questions, keeping my ears open. Stories surfaced, neighbors recalling late-night shouting matches, bruises Renee tried to hide, Derek's name tied to bar fights. The picture sharpened. Renee wasn't just unstable, she was tethered to a man who thrived on intimidation. It became clear, protecting Maya meant exposing the truth. I couldn't sit back while Renee wove lies about being the doting mother. She wanted an image polished enough to impress Derek's family, but I was ready to show the reality behind it. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a notepad, mapping out what I knew, who I could talk to, and what evidence I could gather. For the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't just reacting. I was preparing. If Renee wanted a war, I was done waiting for the next attack. It was time to fight fire with fire. I had just pulled into the driveway with groceries when Renee appeared from the side of the house. Her car wasn't in sight. She must have walked over, lying in wait. Before I could unlock the door, she stormed toward me, her voice already raised. "You think you're her mother?" she shouted, hands flailing. "You're nothing but the babysitter. That's all you've ever been." The words slammed into me like a slap. My instinct was to shield Maya, who sat in the back seat clutching her backpack. I quickly opened the door, urging her inside, but Renee's voice carried down the street, raw and piercing. Maya froze halfway to the porch, her little face twisted in fear. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she cried out, "Stop. Please stop." Her small hands pressed against her ears, as if that could block out the venom being hurled between us. My chest tightened, but I planted myself firmly between Renee and my child. "I will never hand her over to you," I said, steady though my hands shook. "Her safety comes before everything, and you can't give her that." Renee's eyes narrowed, rage flooding her expression. She stepped closer, her voice dropping into a hiss. "You'll regret crossing me," she spat. "I don't care what it takes. I'll make sure you lose." I didn't answer. I guided Maya into the house, bolted the door, and stood still for a long moment, listening to Renee's footsteps retreat down the driveway. That night, as Maya slept curled against me on the couch, I made a decision. I couldn't let these confrontations vanish into the air, leaving only her words echoing in my head. I needed proof, something solid that showed exactly what she was doing. I pulled out my phone and began keeping a log. Date, time, place, every outburst, every threat. I wrote it all down. When she showed up unexpectedly, when her voice rose, when Maya's tears came, each incident marked and preserved. The next morning, I bought a small camera and fixed it discreetly above the garage. Another inside the car. If Renee wanted to play this game loudly in the open, then her own actions would betray her. Still, the image of Maya standing there, begging us to stop, haunted me. Her sobs echoed in my mind long after the house had gone quiet. I knew this was only the beginning of Renee's spiral, and each step forward meant more danger, more lies, more chaos. But now I wasn't just standing in defense. I was preparing a record, building a shield of truth that Renee couldn't twist. She wanted to paint me as the babysitter. I was ready to show the world exactly who was unfit to be called mom. It started with a phone call from the school office. The secretary's voice trembled as she explained that Maya had been picked up early. My heart lurched. I hadn't arranged anything. Panic surged through me, and I could barely hold the phone steady as I asked, "Who signed her out?" The answer chilled me. "Renee." I dropped everything and sped to the school, but by then both of them were gone. The sight of Maya's empty classroom chair nearly buckled my knees. I rushed straight to the police station, filing a report with shaking hands. My voice cracked as I gave details, custody papers, adoption documents, every piece of proof that showed Maya was mine. Officers assured me they would act quickly. Still, every minute felt like an hour, my chest tight as I pictured Maya in unfamiliar hands. The wait was unbearable, the longest stretch of my life. By evening, word came. They had located Maya at an apartment on the edge of town. When I arrived with officers, I saw her through the cracked doorway, sitting small and pale on the couch. Her hair was tangled, and an untouched plate of food sat beside her. She looked tired, frightened, and far too quiet for a child who normally filled rooms with chatter. Renee appeared from the kitchen, eyes wide with feigned innocence. "I just wanted one night with my daughter," she insisted, arms crossing as though that excused everything. What's so wrong with that? The officers didn't buy her act. One of them stepped forward, warning her firmly. Her behavior was reckless, dangerous, and illegal. She was told in no uncertain terms that another stunt like this could land her in serious trouble. I barely heard the lecture. My focus was on Maya. When I reached for her, she clung to me desperately, her small fingers digging into my sweater. She whispered. I was hungry, but I didn't want to ask her. The words broke something inside me. I carried her out of that apartment, holding her close as though I could shield her from the memory. Her body shook against mine the entire ride home. She didn't let go even as I tucked her into bed later that night. Her eyes darted toward the door, afraid she might be taken again. I sat beside her, stroking her hair until sleep finally claimed her, though her little hand still clutched mine tightly. The authorities might have considered the warning sufficient, but I knew better. Renee hadn't acted out of love. She had acted out of possession, a need to prove she could take what wasn't hers. That night, staring into the dark, I realized the fight had crossed into dangerous territory. My sister wasn't just threatening anymore, she was willing to steal. And Maya was the one paying the price. The morning my attorney filed for a restraining order, I felt both relief and dread. Relief, because someone was finally drawing a clear line against Renee's behavior. Dread, because I knew she wouldn't let it end quietly. The hearing came quickly. The courthouse smelled faintly of paper and polish, its sterile walls buzzing with quiet conversations. When Renee walked in, she wore a tailored jacket, her hair pinned neatly, the picture of composure. She carried herself like she was the wronged party, not the one who had broken laws. When it was her turn to speak, she wasted no time twisting the story. Clara has always been controlling, she told the judge, her voice trembling in practiced sorrow. She pushed me out when I was struggling, then poisoned my daughter against me. She's bitter, jealous, and she's made it her mission to erase me from Maya's life. Her words stung, but I stayed still, hands folded in my lap. My lawyer leaned forward, steady and unshaken. When it was my turn, I rose slowly, meeting the judge's eyes. I presented records, court documents from the adoption, medical forms showing missed appointments under Renee's care, and most damning of all, the recent police report. The facts laid out clearly that Maya had been left behind years ago, and that her safety had been jeopardized again when Renee unlawfully removed her from school. The judge studied the paperwork in silence while I explained, my voice level. My only concern is Maya's well-being. Every decision I've made has been to protect her. She deserves stability. She deserves safety. Across the aisle, Renee shifted in her chair. Her polished exterior began to crack as the evidence stacked higher. Her jaw clenched, her foot tapped, her eyes darted toward me with a simmering glare. When the judge asked her about the incident at the school, she snapped. "I'm her mother. I don't need permission to see my own child." The sharpness of her voice echoed through the courtroom. A hush fell, everyone turning to watch her unravel. The judge's face hardened. "That is precisely the problem," he said firmly. "You relinquished your rights years ago. This court recognizes Clara as the child's legal and custodial parent." Renee's lips trembled, but no words followed. For the first time, she looked small. The gavel came down, the decision final. The restraining order was granted. My custody wasn't just upheld, it was reinforced, leaving no space for ambiguity. I exhaled slowly, the tightness in my chest easing. Walking out of the courtroom, I felt the weight of the ruling settle like a shield around Maya and me. Renee had tried to cast me as the bitter one, but it was her bitterness that betrayed her. And the court had seen it clearly. After the ruling, Renee's unraveling was swift. Word spread quickly that she had gone back to the same people she once swore she'd cut off. Arguments spilled into the open. Neighbors whispered about shouting matches in the street, late nights filled with slammed doors and broken glass. The polished image she had tried so hard to maintain crumbled. Her voice grew shrill in public, her temper flashing at anyone who challenged her. Most of her anger was directed at Derek. He had believed her stories about redemption, about fighting for her daughter against an unjust system. But the court documents told another truth, one he couldn't ignore. When he discovered how much she had twisted, how much she had hidden, he walked away. He left her with nothing but a half-empty apartment and the same bitterness that had driven her for years. She cursed his name to anyone who would listen, but her words carried no weight anymore. One evening, just as the sun dipped behind the trees, I heard pounding at my front door. I opened it cautiously, and there she was, eyes red, cheeks wet, mascara streaked across her skin. She wasn't polished now. She was broken, clutching the frame like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "Please," she sobbed, voice cracking. "Please, Clara. I can't lose her. Just let me see her, just once. I'll do better. I promise." For a flicker of a moment, I saw my sister as she had been years ago, fragile, lost, desperate. Guilt tried to worm its way in, reminding me of shared childhood memories of laughter long gone. But then I remembered Maya's face, pale and frightened in that apartment, her tiny voice whispering about hunger. I remembered the courtroom, the shouting, the manipulation, the lies. My hand tightened on the door. "No," I said quietly, firmly. "This ends here." Her body crumpled, shoulders shaking as she sank to the steps, sobs spilling into the evening air. I stood only a moment longer before closing the door, shutting out the sound, shutting out the pull of old guilt. Inside, the house was warm, the soft hum of the television filling the silence. Maya peeked from the hallway, eyes wide. She rushed forward and wrapped her arms around my waist, clinging with all her strength. Her small voice muffled against me. "You're my only mom." The words steadied me. I sank to my knees, holding her close, breathing in the scent of her hair. The storm outside no longer mattered. Renee's spiral belonged to her alone now. For the first time in months, I felt the ground beneath my feet solid again. I didn't need to save my sister. I only needed to protect my daughter. And with that choice made, peace finally found its way into our home. The weeks after Renee's last visit were quiet, almost unnervingly so. I decided that silence could either feel like emptiness or like healing. I chose healing. Maya needed that more than anything. At home, I focused on making her world steady again. I built small routines that wrapped her in comfort. Morning pancakes on Fridays, walks to the park after school, bedtime stories no matter how late I came home from work. I wanted her to feel safe, to know that our home was a place where fear couldn't reach. It wasn't always easy. Nightmares woke her some evenings, her cries sharp in the dark. I would sit beside her bed, rubbing her back until her breathing slowed. When she asked if Renee might come back, I told her gently, "Not here, not anymore." Reassurance came in patience, in never turning away from her questions, no matter how hard they were. Slowly, the weight began to lift from her shoulders. She laughed more. She painted colorful pictures for the fridge. She started running into my arms at pickup again, her joy unclouded. Each of those small victories reminded me why I had chosen to fight, why I had endured everything. Meanwhile, Renee's presence withered. People who once entertained her stories no longer gave her the time of day. Word reached me that she had slipped back into the same dark habits, her bitterness swallowing her whole. She became a ghost of herself, pacing the edges of a life she had ruined, while ours kept moving forward. One quiet evening, after putting Maya to bed, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea. The crickets hummed, the air soft against my skin. My thoughts drifted to Renee, her demands, her cruelty, the endless chaos she tried to pour into our lives. And then the realization came, clear and sharp. All of her attempts had failed. She wanted to break us apart, I whispered into the night. But instead, she made us stronger. That was the truth. Maya and I weren't just surviving, we were thriving. Every hug, every shared meal, every small ritual was a testament to the life we had built together, stronger because of what we endured. The sweetest revenge wasn't shouting in a courtroom or slamming a door. It was the quiet triumph of living well while she faded into nothing. Maya stirred in her sleep that night, mumbling softly, and I went to her room, brushing hair from her forehead. Her small hand reached for mine, gripping tightly even in dreams. I smiled, knowing she no longer clung out of fear, but out of love. Renee had wanted ownership. I had given Maya something far deeper, stability, warmth, and the certainty of being cherished. And that was where our story ended. Not in bitterness, but in the strength of a family she could never tear apart. Do you think I made the right choice by protecting Maya and closing the door on Renee, or should I have let her back in? Share your thoughts below. I'd love to know. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories.